Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we pick a movie every week and discuss it, just like a book club. On today's show, we are covering the animated romance drama, Your Name. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 2016, Your Name was directed by Makoto Shinkai and stars Ryunosuke Kamiki, Mone Kamishiraishi, and Ryo Narita. Sorry if there's any mispronunciation of those names. Two teenagers share a profound, magical connection upon discovering that they are swapping bodies. Things manage to become even more complicated when the boy and girl decide to meet in person. It is currently ranked 84 on IMDb's Top 250 and currently has a 4.2 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and is currently ranked number 244 on its Top 250. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for this film. We're going to be talking about some pretty massive things that happen in the story. We will be discussing plot points, twists, revelations, and more here on the show. Anything that could potentially, possibly spoil the movie for you if you haven't seen it. And spoiler alert, I've seen Kevin's review, so I think this is going to be a pretty solid go and watch it from both of us.
Yeah.
So you should go watch this movie and then come back and get in on the discussion, because we think that you'll really enjoy it. Okay. Stay tuned to the end of the show for next week's movie, because we want you to watch it before it comes out. Alrighty, Kevin. So I believe this one was my pick this week.
No, this
was your pick.
This is my pick because you picked City of God last week.
That's correct. Yes. So what made you choose Your Name?
I've always heard good things about it, and I always see like on Instagram like the comment going by, and I've always wanted to watch it because of how beautiful it looks. So that's why I picked it.
Yes, I will wholeheartedly agree with that. It is just an incredibly good-looking movie, but we'll get into that in a minute. Mm-hmm. I have seen this movie before. I actually own the Steelbook version of this movie. I was able to find that on one of our excursions out to Amoeba Records, and I believe you were there actually when I found it, or maybe you found it. I don't remember.
I found it for you.
That's what it was. You found it. We originally had watched this back on the Drive Back podcast, which is the earlier form of this channel, because I had always, like you, I had heard amazing things about it. It looked so incredible, so I wanted to watch it, and Adrian and I were able to review it. And so, let's just go ahead and dive in. This movie is bonkersly gorgeous.
It is. It's crazy how some people are just that talented that they can make a scene look like it's actually happening.
Yes, and I think that there is another movie, and this is a throwback to the top 10 beautiful animated films videos I did, but Your Name is on that list. It's number 4, I believe. But also, this director has another film called The Garden of Words, which is not as good of a movie, but it is even more gorgeous. The Garden of Words is the best looking animated movie I think I've ever seen. This is very close, though. Mm-hmm. And it's just Makoto Shinkai is so good at what he does in terms of breathing life into these.
Is this one more modern, or which one came up first?
The Garden of Words came out first chronologically compared to this. I want to say that's a good question. I want to double check that. I want to say like 2008, 2013. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
So
I was
3 years earlier.
Maybe it's a like a 90s adaptation of an animated movie.
No, it's a pretty modern movie. I would say that Your Name is a little bit more in terms of modern.
Okay.
But they're both somewhat close to modern day. This one, though, is a full-length film. Garden of Words, I believe, is a 40-minute movie.
Oh, okay.
Or something around there. 46 minutes, yeah. So it's more of a short film. That's also just, it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's just not as good as Your Name, but we're here to talk about Your Name. This movie is gorgeous. Every time you look at the sky, anything having to do with food or, like the trains or anything traveling.
The city in the background when they're riding on the trains, like just looking out the window, you just want to sit there and just rewind it a little bit just so you can experience that window shot again.
Yes, and the meteor crater is also just so gorgeous to look at. And also the characters are designed really well. They don't go, it is Makoto Shinkai's style where it's like it is more typical anime look, but then also like it looks more a little bit more grounded, almost like a little bit
Mhm.
more realistic, which is kind of refreshing, especially for people who haven't seen films before that are anime or haven't watched anime. I think this is a little bit more approachable. I wouldn't say it's as approachable to someone who hasn't seen anime as like a Studio Ghibli movie is,
Mhm.
but this one is, I think, it is more approachable than like I think a lot of shows out there are.
Yeah. I think this is a little bit if someone wants to watch a romantic movie but doesn't know what to put on and someone just suggests them this movie, I don't think they would be discouraged to watch it and they might actually enjoy it a lot more. I personally did. I'm not really into romantic movies or romantic dramas or anything, but I was hooked on this one to see what
We're
was going to happen.
we're slowly turning you around because I know you
I
watched
know.
La La Land recently, and you're
Oh
not a
yeah.
musical guy either, and you loved that one, and
Mhm.
so we're turning this franchise around, folks. We're going to get him hooked on romance. No,
Mhm.
I'm excited to watch Casablanca now that you're kind of
Okay.
kind of stepping into this.
Mhm.
But yeah, this movie, I want to go ahead and touch on the romance part of this movie because obviously it is a big thing between our two lead characters. You know, again, we already said spoiler alert, but connected across time,
Yeah.
and not necessarily just switching bodies, which I think is a very, very good twist. And I
I
think,
mhm.
okay,
Oh, so I was gonna say I agree with you there. I liked how the time wasn't it was necessary in a way, but it wasn't just like, oh, they just switch places. It's like,
yeah,
no, this is what happens.
yeah,
So,
100%. It's your, it adds a layer of like, I don't want to say danger, but like just a thematic brilliance. Like it's
hmm
just, like, oh yeah, they're switching bodies. It's Freaky Friday, and then you're like, no, there's actually something going on. And then the realization, I think, of on the main, I'm gonna forget the main character's name. It's gonna drive me nuts. Um, Taki,
yeah.
when he realizes that it's in the past,
Oh yeah.
that hits
And
like a truck.
it does, because well, you're thinking the whole time that they are in the same time period because it's so seamlessly how they do everything, which is
Yeah,
amazing. And when that bombshell gets dropped on you, you're like, oh shit, like what? How is he still having these like dreams? Why is he still? Why are they still switching places even though this person is is not
they're coming
ar-
for you.
I know, gosh, is not around, and that's what made it so interesting. And that's what I mean. This movie had me at like the funny romantic things, but then when that happened, I was like, oh, I'm invested. Like,
Yeah.
how do they get from this point to the end point now?
Yes, and I think that culminates in probably one of if not the best moments of the film, which is when they actually meet Craterside.
Oh, that how one side has a person, the other side doesn't, but it always flips so it looks like they're not talking to another person. That is right.
Yeah, but I'm kind of getting more at the part when they start to realize the time is ending or time is going to be up. So they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
hey, let's write our names on each other's hands.
Mhm,
And then
mhm,
when
mhm.
she wakes up and it says "I love you," it's just like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not the most sentimental person in the world, but like that just tugs at the heartstrings.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's it's so good. And then
Because you
that
because you
go
think
ahead.
they're just you think they're just gonna write their names, not anything else. That's what I thought at least. I was like, "Oh, they're gonna write their names," and then he puts "I love you," and I'm like, "Bro, he doesn't even know your name now." Like,
Yeah, I do think that it's just it's so effective, and it really speaks to this chemistry and this bond that they've kind of built up because I think you get a lot of the body swapping movies like Freaky Friday, and they really focus in on the quirky, like, oh my god, I'm young again, or oh my god, like they focus on the weird and the odd, right? And
mhm.
this movie, they do that, but just for a little bit. They do the things that a teenage boy is going to do. He's like, "Wow, shoot, I have boobs now," and he's going to look at him and feel them, and she's going to be really embarrassed to have to go to the restroom because she
Mm.
doesn't know how. Like, so they do that for like all of a minute, and then
Yeah.
it gets into like more of the kind of nitty gritty. But what I really appreciate is how quickly they start working together.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
take notes. Oh, well, it's like it's just so refreshing to see a movie like that, because I would hope that if I ever had the pleasure or mispleasure of switching bodies with someone, that we would work together to make each other's lives better.
Yeah. I agree.
But that
Mhm.
doesn't happen a lot. A lot of movies would just play into the comedy and the weirdness and the oddity, but they wouldn't work into the, again, like the romance and like the actual, like the building of friendships. I think is just really,
Mm.
really something special. What this movie does that nothing else really does.
Yeah. Well, and then it does also have that comedy aspect to it, because
Yeah.
when the sister catches her touching her boobs, she goes, "Why are you doing this again? Get ready!" But that was it. That's it. It's not going to show
Yeah.
you anything else or anything more. But it was just that hint of like, if I mean, we both have siblings. If that happened, the siblings would be like, "Okay, you're weird. Let's get going." So
Yeah.
it's totally understandable, and it's like it felt a little real, because it's like, okay, yeah, they wouldn't just be like, okay, they would be like, what the hell are you doing?
just stop and get ready. Like,
Hmm.
it's perfectly done. And I really ended up loving that. And then obviously, again, takes us to the end of the movie where they've both grown up, and
Hmm.
then they happen upon each other. Obviously, the plan worked,
Yep.
and the I guess a lesser movie would have gone the path of, hey, I think we've met before.
I was, yes, I loved how they did this. It's 8 years later. It's not 1 month later. It's like, oh, I think I recognize her, but I don't know. I'm not sure. And
Yeah.
then they they cross each other on the she's at the top, he's at the bottom. They walk past each other.
Hmm.
Don't say anything. Just keep walking. And in my mind, like, oh, I'm not gonna get that happy ending of this movie. I thought they were just gonna end it there. And then they turn around. Oh, I think I know you. And then it cuts right to when they're about to say their name. And it was great. Loved
Yeah.
that part.
And what I say is a lesser movie would have gone the route of like, hey, I think I know you. And they're like, and they would have made like, I don't know, but like, it just wouldn't have done it the same way where she turns around like already almost teary eyed and is like, I thought I recognized you. And it's just,
Yeah.
it hits so well.
Yeah.
It's so well done. But I do. Looks like there's something you wanted to add, though.
Oh, I just liked how that ending was. It was just we got that satisfaction, but we still, but we basically don't know if they remember who they are,
Yeah.
because they just ask for your name and then the movie ends, which
Well,
I
then
thought that
title
was,
drop.
yeah, well, it was brilliant. So, um, what were you gonna say?
And I was going to say the thing that I do have to call out, the thing that even on a rewatch I still just can't vibe with.
Hmm.
And in this movie, it is like, I can understand putting popular music into your film
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if it serves the scene, but I feel like they just inject songs into this movie with no rhyme or reason. And maybe it's a cultural thing. I don't understand. Maybe it's just something that people expect from a Japanese film or something. It could be. I could be completely wrong here, but like, it just didn't feel right. I think with a movie that's like this, obviously maybe a pop song every once in a while, but like, I expect more of like a score, like a Studio Ghibli movie, something a little bit more stirring and moving, maybe a little bit more romantic, maybe a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more quirky in the beginning, and less about like the high school, anime show intro type music.
Mm-hmm.
That it
True.
just doesn't work for me in the regards of this film. It's a very minor complaint, and I want to make that very clear. It is a very minor complaint if we're talking about the minutia of how I think the music should have been in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it does kind of like, and I feel like it does come in odd moments where it kind of like, it's like, oh, where did that come from? Like, it it feels oddly placed. I don't know if you picked up on that at all, or
Not really, but
okay.
because I like when music gets added to something when they're doing like a montage or just in the background faintly for it, so it doesn't bother me that much because I'm focusing on I I'm sorry, I like visuals. So I'm watching everything instead of listening to everything. So like yeah, there were some like poppy songs in there, but I was just like, okay, it's they're teenagers, they're in high school. That's how I felt.
Sure, sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so I mean, like, it's clear that we both love this movie. I think at this point we can kind of just jump to what our final thoughts are and kind of give a score. We really both think that you should go out and watch this movie as soon as
Yep.
possible. But Kevin, since this was your pick, why don't you go first?
Okay, well, so I gave this movie 5 stars out of 5 stars, and it was an 89 out of 100. Didn't think I would enjoy the romance part of this movie. I knew I was gonna love the visuals on it, so but the romance really got me into the movie and kind of stuck with me there. And then at the end, when everything just falls into place, is immaculate. So definitely go watch this movie. It is one of the most beautiful movies that I have seen probably to date.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think this is one of the best looking animated films of all time. Obviously, I put it in the list for the top 10 beautiful animated films that are 2D. I said that Your Name is a beautiful work of animation that centers on two realistic and likable characters, and is only let down by the insistent pop music interruptions. Again, a very minor complaint in the grand scope of things. And so I gave it a 95 out of 100 and a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It is just absolutely one of my favorite animated films of all time. And it's one of the ones that I always recommend to people who are looking for something new and different and maybe a little bit original. So the question now falls to you. What do you think of Your Name? Go ahead and leave those comments down in the description down below. We'd love to hear what you have to say, but remember to be nice to one each other, because you never know. There could be a time difference, and you might fall in love. Who knows? Next week, we'll be covering the drama, kind of a thriller classic, kind of a little bit of comedy, The Truman Show. So make sure to watch it before next week, so before we cover it, so you're not spoiled. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us here on YouTube. We're also on social media everywhere at Real Watchers. That's REEL Watchers. We also have our live stream every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where you can join us, talk movie news, reviews, and so much more. And that's about it. So thank you so much for watching, and make sure until next time to keep your eyes on the screen.